What happens when the world's best chess player slips up? In the fast-paced world of blitzchess, where quick thinking is key, even the strongest players can falter. Chess is a game of strict rules and precise strategies played on a board with 64 squares. Each piece, from the tiny pawn to the powerful queen, moves in its own special way. These rules are the backbone of the game, ensuring fairness and structure. But in the heat of the moment, even champions can make surprising mistakes. Today, we don't have just any regular champion. We have one of the greatest chess players of all time. The famous and popular Magnus Carlsen is not only the highest-rated player ever, but also held the title of world champion for 10 consecutive years, from 2013 to 2023. In today's game, Carlsen faced off against Boris Savchenko in the 2010 World Blitz Championship in Moscow. The Russian grandmaster was no easy opponent, boasting a formidable rating of 26-32 at the time. Magnus started the game with the white pieces by moving his pawn to e4. On the other hand, Boris opted for the Sicilian defense by moving his c-pawn to c5. After Magnus chose the open variation by moving his pawn to d4, the Russian grandmaster responded with one of the most aggressive variations in the Sicilian, the accelerated dragon, by moving his g-pawn to g6. The players continued following standard theory by developing their pieces and castling their kings. The game reached a critical point when Boris developed his queen to a5, connecting his rooks on a8 and f8. At this moment, Magnus thought for a minute and then played the intriguing move, rook to b1. This move was interesting because it removed any potential future danger to the rook and supported a future attack with the b2 pawn against the queen on a5. Boris then activated his rook on c8, while Carlsen increased the pressure by moving his f-pawn to f4. It was interesting to notice the passion of the Russian audience, who followed the game quietly but with great focus. While one might think the older age of the audience indicates how long it takes to understand chess, the young age of the players actually contradicts that notion. After Boris played his knight to d7, clearing the path for his bishop, Magnus made a very interesting move that turned the game into a heated battle. Magnus played his knight to d5, sacrificing his a2 pawn. After Boris captured the pawn, Magnus immediately played his pawn to b4. And despite sacrificing a pawn, Magnus had gained great compensation due to the high activity of his pieces. Under this high pressure from Magnus, Boris blundered by, moving his knight to f6, and was then forced to sacrifice his knight on e4. Magnus's last move had nearly trapped Boris's queen, compelling him to play this move. With a piece down, everyone thought Boris was on his way to losing. However, the strong Russian grandmaster surprised Magnus with a series of powerful attacking moves. And after Magnus retreated his knight to f2, Boris captured the bishop on d3, missing a big chance to even play for a win against Magnus. Feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move. Boris should have played the move pawn to d4, trapping the black bishop on e3. The game then continued with a series of exchanges between both sides, resulting in a heated position where Magnus had an extra piece in return for 2 pawns. As time was running low for both players, Magnus played the logical move rook to c2, hoping to double the rooks on the c-file to put massive pressure on the c4 pawn. However, in a sudden stroke of brilliance, Boris played rook to b3, forcing Magnus to move his rook to d1, losing the important b5 pawn. But what would have happened if Magnus had simply decided to capture the rook on b3? Let's find out. After capturing the b3 rook, Boris would simply take back with the pawn. If black then decided to capture the rook on c8, Boris would push the pawn to b2, making it impossible for Magnus to prevent the queen promotion on the next move. After capturing the b5 pawn, the game was steadily heading toward a draw, as the material was now equal. Magnus had an extra piece in return for 3 pawns for Boris. Following some more exchanges at c3, everyone was expecting a draw agreement at any moment, as both players could make little progress in the position. Then suddenly, due to intense time pressure, Magnus made a severe blunder by moving his king to d4. This allowed Boris to simply play his bishop to f2, giving a check, winning the rook, and ultimately winning the game. In less than a second, Carlsen realized his mistake and tried to move his king to the c4 square instead. However, he wasn't allowed to do that. Boris immediately called the arbiter to force Magnus to play the move king to d4. According to the touch move rule in chess, a piece can be moved anywhere as long as you still hold it. But once you take your hand away, the move is considered completed and you cannot move it somewhere else. Upon realizing his mistake, Magnus was visibly upset, but admitted his fault. He shook hands with Boris, displaying true champion attitude. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any future content.